let's go to to our week 4 session. As always, you have it all in the online course, well documented. So I'll just run you through it and how it applies in R itself. We're going to use the pivot longer function, which turns wide data into long data, right? Let's pull up the help file with the question mark, and we get some information on it. Pivot longer lengthens data, increasing the number of rows and decreasing the number of columns, right? So this is what it does. Let's look at our student data set, or our student new data set, which we created in the previous video when we were merging and appending things, right? So the student new data set is our newest data set that actually combines our original student data set, and we added new students at the bottom. So it's the fullest data set we currently have. It's 1,089 observations, 23 variables. And as you've seen in previous videos, we have some grade point average information here, grades, right? GPA, grade point averages. And we have them for several years, actually from 2010 to 2020. And this is a good example of what wide data looks like. You have a similar type of information, which is the grade point average, and it's repeated for several years, right? So it's similar in nature and is repeated, and each time it is added through an additional column, right? So we still have one student per row, and this one student has the grade in 2010, grade in 2011, and so forth. And actually, we want to now restructure this data into a long format. So this would then mean that one student has 10 rows for each year, and we have a new variable which indicates the year in which the grade point average was calculated. All right, why would we do that? Well, in R, long formats have sometimes advantages, that things are more efficient, certain functions work better. Sometimes it is required to produce nice looking graphics. It makes things a lot easier. It's sometimes more efficient to do things for one column, right? Rather than doing the same thing repeatedly for separate columns. So let's jump into that and do that and apply the pivot longer command. In the pivot longer function, you first need to identify which columns you want to restructure to the long format, right? And in our case, this is columns 5 to 15. If you jump to the data frame, you see GPA 2010 is actually the 5th column, right? And correspondingly, GPA 2020 is column 15. So we specify here a range of columns by using the number of the column, 5 colon to 15, right? Then there's another element here, which is names to year. So this is what creates a new variable, and we can tell R what we want this variable to be named and what it indicates. And it indicates the year, right? Because what is similar in all those comments is that what it tells us is the year. It varies by year, just adding 1 year each time. So turning it to the long format now, we have a variable indicating, okay, which year is this data actually taken from? And we also have a new variable which now contains the actual values of our grades, right? The actual grades which were previously next to each other are now beneath each other. And this variable we're going to call grade because it contains the grades. We're also going to specify values underscore drop NA and say false. We don't want missing values from the wide format to be lost once we restructure, right? So let's run this and call this new data frame students long. See what it looks like. Where is it? Here, students long. You notice now it has a lot more observations or rows, right? Almost 12,000 rows, because now every student has as many rows as there were years, right? And it has only 14 variables, so much less than previously, because we condensed the grades. Okay. So now we have a new variable, as you see here, which is the year. It indicates the year, what was previously in wide format. And we also have the grade, which is, you know, the grade point average taken from the previous ones. And we now see that, you know, we have many more rows for each each student. Okay, so this is it. This is what restructuring is, but what's kind of elegant about it is now that you can do lots of things with this one column, which is grade, and you can group the grades by year or by other things, right? And this is what makes it a little bit more efficient and elegant. Another way in the pivot longer command to actually tell R which columns we want to restructure is just a small variation here. It's called the matches function. So it tells R, take all the comments that in their name match this character, GPA underscore, right? So if the name of the column includes GPA underscore, we want that column to be converted from wide to long, right? That's just another variation to do that. The actual data that's being produced is identical. Now that we have this long format data, let's calculate the mean. Let's calculate the mean by year, which is now very easy, and you've learned in previous sessions how to do that. We group our data by the new year variable, and then we use the summarize function to create a new variable which contains the mean grade calculated based on the new grade variable, which we now have. Don't forget to exclude missing values, otherwise R will complain. So let's see what that looks like. It will tell you that 11 warnings occurred because there were some missing data there. Let's go to the long one. We see all of a sudden, well, way less observations, only 11 because we summarized it, right? We aggregated the data, and only 2 more variables, the year and the mean grade. And we also observed that it didn't really work out. Something didn't work, right? We have 11 missing values, all our averages are gone, and we learn nothing from this. So what happened? Let's check whether this worked or not, and we see, well, if we summarize this variable here, the mean grade, we see it did not work, right? It's obvious they were all missing values. So why didn't it work? Let's rerun the previous command, so previous function where we restructured the data, and we see that, you know, it looks normal here. It looks very normal here, so it's not, we're still not sure what is going on. One of the first sort of troubleshooting approaches I recommend you taking is always check out what type of variable you're dealing with, right? What's the class of the object that we're dealing with, and that's often the root of the problem. So let's look at this data set using the structure function, and we'll look at the grade variable, and we see it's a character variable. Well, obviously R cannot take an average from a text variable, right? We need to tell R that this is actually reflecting numbers from 1 to 6, okay? So let's convert grade into numeric variable, and we actually can do that together in one run with the converting it from wide to long, okay? All we do is add a pipe at the end and then use the command we've used before, which is mutate grade as numeric, and then convert the grade variable into a numeric variable. Let's run that. Let's look at the structure again. Grade is now a numeric variable, seems to have worked out. So now let's try to take the mean again, right, by year, which we tried before and didn't work. So now since we've converted the variable into a numeric type, it should work. Let's look at the student's long data set, and voila, we now have values here which represent the student's average grade for every year, okay? Now, we don't just want the average student grade for all the students at the university by year, we actually want it by course and faculty as well. Well, as you've learned before in previous sessions, we just extend the group by function by adding several more breakdowns, right? We want it actually by faculty, sex, and year. Everything else stays the same, and we, again, added this element through the pipe operator. We replace the student long function. Now we have a lot more observations, and for every combination here of faculty, sex, and year, we have the grade, the mean grade, right? So for example, for females in the business faculty, the grade point average was 1.9 in 2010, and it was 2.1 in 2011. So on average, the performance of female students at the business faculty got worse, right? Higher grades here in this system mean worse performance, right? And then we have the same for the business faculty and male students for every year, right? So this is why the group by function in combination with mutate and mean and summarize is so powerful. All right, what if we want to convert this long format here into a wide format again? Because we've computed our mean. It was easy, it was elegant. Now we want to actually spread it out again because we need an Excel file that looks like this. For somebody's asking for it and we need to deliver it. So we want to convert it back into wide format. Well, the command is called pivot_wider, right? And all it does is you have to tell it where to take the names from, so the reverse of the previous pivot longer command. And we want to convert, right, the names again into the year, and we take the values from the mean grade variable. So we take the values from here, we take the names from this variable and spread them out again, okay? We're going to create a new data frame object called students wide. Now we see it has 13 observations, and here we see again the grades are in wide format, and they contain each now the average grade for that particular year by certain characteristics, in this case sex and faculty. Okay. Now we could again merge this wide data set with our previous data set, right? So this is just as an example for you to practice. We can take the new wide data set here and merge it with our students new, which remember was our old data set that contained all of the information we previously appended, right? 1,089 students that we have. But we don't have any average in here. So now we want to merge into it our averages that we calculated based on the faculty and sex. And we want to actually merge it to every matching characteristic. So we want the average of females in the business faculty matched to every female at the business business faculty here in our big master data set, which is students new, okay? So to do that, we actually need to tell our more than one matching ID, right? Remember, we always need an ID to link to data sets that is consistent in both, right? And in this case, we actually want to match based on the faculty and the sex. And we can do this here by extending the by option in the merge function with a vector C and then faculty, comma, sex, right? This tells our merge everything that's in here in the students wide data frame to students new data frame based on combinations of faculty and sex. And we have the all equals true option because we want to keep all observations even if we didn't successfully merge them, right? So if, for example, missing information as well. And we're going to call this new data frame full. Okay, so this is our new data frame. We still have over 1,000 observations, but now many more variables. And let's check it out. We have here all the average grade point averages for each year that we previously calculated, and we merged them to every single student in our data set. So for example, we have here a female student in the business faculty studying in the course of marketing. She is 31 and she's from Spain, and her grade was actually 2.2 in 2010. Well, the average grade point average in the for all females at the business faculty was 1.9. So she's slightly below average, right? So this is it for today. This showed you how to sort of restructure data, and then again recalling how to merge that data together. Be mindful always to find good IDs when merging. Always be very clear on which columns you try to convert into long format and what types your variables are. So I know this is fairly abstract this week, but this will be key when we produce figures and tables. These are all little tasks that we constantly need to do when we alter the data that we eventually want to analyze and see. So I'll see you next week.